Welcome to the board wrap-up show for the month of September 2013, a great start to the Ponca City Public Schools. And we have a special guest with us, Bret Smith with the Ponca City Schools, is filling in for Dr. Pennington on this month's show. And Bret, we're just going to kind of let you have the floor here for a little while and talk about things that you think are important to our viewers as to what happened on the board meeting.
Well, I'd be glad to. The superintendent had a great discussion and a presentation from Zach Murray. They talked about iDesign and did a little presentation for the folks there, and it was very interesting in what he has tried to accomplish in his classroom. He's a biology teacher there at Ponca City High School, and developed a kind of a white pages type exercise for the kids. Ask a question whether an organism is dead or alive, and the kids would say yes they are or no they're not, and develop this white page to discuss why they thought it was or was not, and made it very interesting and very interactive for all the kids, and he really enjoyed listening to him. Then of course we've got some accreditation status report. We have our auditors along with Dr. Pennington and Brenda Story went through what we actually are indebted or owe as a district through the sinking fund. So they determined what it was that we needed in regards to the district on assessed valuation throughout Kay, Noble, and Osage County, where we get a lot of our taxation from, and allowed us to figure out exactly what it is that we need to pay back those debts. Bond issues, that's sinking fund things. And so we had that estimate. The board approved the number that we present to the Kay County assessor. They will review that and figure out how to come up with those numbers for us to pay those debts. So that helped as well to get that accomplished, and they'll have that turned into the Kay County assessor by the 20th of this month. We also, after the board voted to approve or not approve that one, which they did, then we went through some policy changes that the state had asked us to do. They made some new laws with legislation that changed some policies for us, also created some new ones. So the board they've been reviewing those policies for the last month. So they've read them, they understood them, and they agree with them and voted for them last night to go ahead and approve those policy changes. There'll probably be another one or two of those as the year goes on, maybe in November, but this got a big part of them for the rest of our board. They also, we talked about a change order for Washington Elementary. As you know, Washington Elementary is putting on a new roof and HVAC. This was something that the citizens voted in '09. But because that building was empty and has been for a little bit, we chose to hold off. But now we're going to go ahead and get that process started. You'll see a lot of activity over there. We had a little bit of a change in the scope, so the board had to approve a little over $6,000 worth of reduction in the cost of that project, which is always a good thing. We like reductions in cost versus increases. So the board approved that last night as well. Part of the bidding process, the board approved last month for subcontract work within that project, excluded the drywall and ceiling portion of that project. They didn't have anybody that bid it. So we set it out for bid, and they come back in with a price of $47,660 to do that part of the project, which was also under budget. And that constituted and created some of that savings that we got for that project. Then the board also approved an agreement with the YMCA. For as long as I've been around, we've always had to contribute an amount of money to the city or the YMCA in order for us to be able to use that swimming pool. And for years and years it was about $10,000. Now it's $15,000. And it's the same thing we've been doing for the last couple of years, especially since we've got the new YMCA Family Center out there. And so we give those folks $15,000 a year for us to be able to use that for special education and for our swim team. That's pretty cheap. The city gets to use our schools for different events and basketball and some of those sort of things, so it makes it a little bit easy for us to do that and for them to come in as well.
Little working agreement between the city and the schools.
Yes, sir, it is. It is. Works out very nice.
One of the things that it's always fun to have Bret on because he does, you encompass so many different things within the school system, and you may or may not know that, you know, as administration does sometimes when somebody leaves, they try to find somebody within that can do those things. And you've kind of caught some of those over the years. But one thing you've always done is handle all of our buildings and, you know, what work goes in, what responsibilities for those buildings and the new look of some of our buildings. How are we right now in our school district? I know that we always are trying to upgrade our facilities, especially some of those older buildings, but are you happy with the way construction went this summer and the way the future of our school buildings is looking right now?
Oh, I'm most definitely and very happy with the way we've been going. You know, we started this process, and the citizens of Ponca City have helped us with bond issues throughout the last 10 years with Dr. White when he's here, was here, and then now the last 9 years with Dr. Pennington. That we started that process of upgrading these buildings. They hadn't been touched for such a long time. We've been through every building in the district now. And it's basically after 20 years, 15, 20 years, we're starting over again. So we're keeping up. We're doing heating and air upgrades. Lincoln, for instance, is going to get a new heat and air system as well as Washington is right now. They've been on the buildings for 17 years. It's hard to believe that Lincoln's 17 years old.
Right. And that's the thing, is it's like a merry-go-round. You know, you never really end that process, but Union and Lincoln, I still remember when those were brand new buildings, and it's hard to believe that those are almost 20 years old. So, in fact, Union probably is. So, is it the goal of the district not to let them go so far without getting the proper care they need?
Absolutely. You know, the better we keep up with our buildings when it comes to energy efficiency and learning, you know, kids need to be able to have a nice place to learn and feel safe. You know, that's part of the other things that we're doing with those buildings is we're creating entrances that keep those kids safe, and if they feel safe, they're going to learn better. So we keep up with not with the Joneses so much as we keep up with the economy and the safety and security and the economics of a building allows us to save money in the long run.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Pennington and I talked a lot about security, and I'd like to know how much you're involved, because I know when you change or you do construction on a building, and usually it's add-ons to our buildings, is that one of the first things you look at is entrances and security and how that is going to be affected?
You know, it was a really long time ago, but when Columbine happened, there was a lot of things that came out of that study. When people looked at the safety and security of buildings, you know, nooks and crannies and things that, you know, people or perpetrators or intruders or kids or whatever can hide in and stay out of sight. So yeah, when we look at the design of either a new building or a renovation thereof, we take those things into consideration. Building entrances and keeping people from just wandering in and out and coming in unnoticed is real important to us.
I know one of the buildings that you have to be particularly proud of is the new Robson Fieldhouse. It was one of, I don't know if it was the first, but it was one of the early projects, I'm sure, that you were involved with. And to look at that building now, which is still a great facility, it's about 3 years old now, but isn't that quite a way for people to arrive and see our high school and our facilities?
Oh, absolutely. You know, and we're not done there either. You know, it's what other places we have in Ponca City, especially in the Ponca City schools, where you're going to have such a concentration of a large number of people all at once, and not only are they going to be local folks, but they're going to be from out of town. And when they go someplace else and say, did you happen to see what's going on in Ponca City, and walk in that new Robson Fieldhouse or see the work that's going to go on in the football field, how well it is.
And that's just a little example. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of money that's spent, a lot of things that take place that people don't see too, quite honestly. A lot of interior things that maybe you don't see from the outside, but from the outside, that Robson, it's as good as it gets as far as I'm concerned. Old and new mixed together.
It certainly is. It is a great facility.
Absolutely. Great to see you. Everything else okay?
Everything works real well. We got a great start for school, and I think probably one of the better starts we've had in a long time. Everybody seems happy. Business is normal. Kids are being educated in the right way.
Very good. Good to see you, and appreciate your time. Bret Smith, filling in for Dr. Pennington on the Board Wrap-Up.